OVERLORD collab. We just got the stream done. It took them 45 minutes to start talking about the collab, but it was pain I endured here by myself, and the characters do not disappoint. We're going to be taking a look at all their kits. Last collab, it was Attack on Titan, and we were very disappointed with their performance, but as we take a look at the new kits, you're gonna you're gonna see that these do not disappoint. But before that, this video is sponsored by none other than Raid Shadow Legends. I am quite certain you've heard of them before. Well, then listen up, because you will now know why it has millions of players and rave reviews. It's a free-to-play fantasy RPG with a fully fledged story and online PvP. Available for Android, iOS, and PC, and you can download it by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen. I'm sure you're all familiar with the game Kiss, Marry, Kill. Well, Raid asked me to make my own version, using their iconic champions, and after looking through the over 750 options, I went with Kissing Konoru. She got some nice goth vibes going, but a little too intimidating. Instead, I went with Minaya to marry. She got more motherly vibes, while still looking like she can handle protecting the house on her own. But for killing, I went with Romero. I know this game has big orcs and stuff that most people are gonna choose, but I've seen enough anime to know this blonde guy here from a called Sacred Order has to be a true villain. And this October, Raid is celebrating Halloween with style. When you download Raid Shadow Legends using my link, copy your player ID and head over to radiard.plarium.com until the 10th of November. Insert your player ID and start digging for a chance at amazing in-game or even real-life prizes, ranging from legendary Halloween-themed champions to amazing gift cards with a total of $20,000. So stop wasting time not playing Raid, or you'll miss this opportunity. Download the game using my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen, and you'll even get a free starter pack worth 30 bucks, including all these goodies. Now we're gonna start with Ainz. He is obviously the main character of the collab. That's the ult. Pretty cool. We're gonna be taking a look at all he does. I'm gonna be translating with Google Translate on my phone like a real professional, because this is what we have to do when there's no proper translation yet. Well, let me check actually. Okay, Kane has actually translated the Ainz and Albedo so far, so I'm going to be using his shoutouts. They look very strong. As I already alluded to it. Let's skip here. So his skills, right? And I was looking at the skills and I was very unconvinced until we took a look at the actual passive, but his attack card inflicts declaration damage by up to 500% at level 3. Don't worry, we're going to be taking a look at gameplay as well. And declaration is for every death mark, which applies with his passive, increases damage by 40%. Now, very standard, right? This is the same thing as like Estarossa doing extra damage with the sort of debuffs that the passive applies. The AoE card was a very strange one. So he has a AoE debuff card that applies a attack related stats lower on the enemies. This is the same AoE, I believe, as Green Valenti. Strange for his kit. We'll see. Now his ultimate is single target, which is unusual because AoEs are very superior. When the unit is participating in PvP, you can see the PvP symbol right here, for every death mark applied to the enemy, reduces damage taken by 7% from enemy attacks and AoE ultimates. This is outside of the ult, like this is a passive. You know how Asonor has a passive on his ultimate, Bon has a passive on his ultimate, so the more ult levels you have, the higher the number is. He gets 7% damage reduction per death mark, and there's no limit. I'm assuming a 1/6 is like a 1%. That's my assumption. Or maybe not at all. Now his passive. For every unknown ally participating in battle, of course he's unknown. He's blue as well, you can see right here. Increases basic stats by 10%. When an unknown ally deals damage, apply death mark to the enemy. So if Reminder that, you know, the ultimate lowers damage by 7% per death mark. If you have 3 unknowns and each unknown does an AoE at the beginning of battle, that's 9 death marks. But sure. When the unit damages an enemy that has 4 stacks of death mark, this is the one thing that so far I was reading, I was like, okay, he looks alright. Applies 1 death pronouncement to the enemy that activates after 1 turn. Do you want to guess what death pronouncement is? They just die. That's it. If they have 4 marks and they take a hit from Eins, they die next turn. That's the passive. At the end of turn, apply damage by 100% of the unit's max HP. They just die. That's sure. That's a very interesting. That's a very interesting way of saying they just collapse. All right. I guess it fits well with him, but it's interesting. His relic, for every debuff applied to the enemy, increases allies' basic stats by 3%, up to 5 times. I am still a little unconvinced that this passive is like fast enough, but it's just funny. It's just like the passive just kills them. Like there's no, oh, they take extra damage or lowers, like Esterosa, right? If you apply 4 thingies that get encroached, they lower their stats by like a ridiculous margin. They just die. That's the mark here. Also the death mark, which is, you know, the thing that you apply at any time in unknown attacks, decreases damage dealt by attacks and AoE ultimates, scaled by ultimate level of the unit. Again, you are lowering the enemy damage. This is not just to Eins, by the way. I think I misspoke here. Or maybe I mispronounced when I meant it. This 7% is not just to Eins. This is a damage lower applied to the enemy that stacks seemingly infinitely, because there's no turn. Like it just applies death mark. We don't know if it's gray. Let me go to the gameplay real quick. Is it gray? If it's gray, it's just stupid. So they're doing a full team with the new characters versus the, I would say, current meta unknown. I'm going to be talking about what I think of them in the meta, by the way, in a bit. But so they start their turn here. I thought eyes would be bigger. Not gonna lie. I hate that they do it like this. Why don't you just make one screen? Like, look at how much space, and it doesn't matter. Look how tiny these screens are. I have to squint. It's gray. You can barely see it because it's so tiny, but it's gray. Okay, let's go back. So this is a big, like, pay to win, like, unit. If you don't have them 6/6, I'm gonna assume they have 1/6 is like 1%. That's my assumption. So let's move on to Alido, next character. This is her ultimate. As soon as it plays, man, this stream was painful to watch. They did quizzes right before. Like, look at this. They did quizzes right before the characters. Oh my god. Yeah. Alright, Alido, best girl of the collab. The costumes look pretty good. I mean, we were all, I assume, hand-holding and praying that the costumes would be good. So let's talk about what she does. First, again, with the skills, because that's how they presented it. You know what, I'm going to talk about the passive first. That makes more sense. I don't know why I did that with Eins. So her passive. Actually, it makes more sense if we know that she has a stance card, alright? Let's go back to the passive. She has a stance card. At the start of turn, apply absolute defense to the unit for 1 turn. Absolute defense reduces damage taken by 50%. So you have Eins lowering their damage, and Alido herself has 50% damage reduction. When the unit is assuming a stance, increases unit basic stats by 20%, and when the unit is attacked at enemy turn, apply buff that increases attack-related stats by 10% for 3 turns, up to 5 stacks. When the unit is not damaged, apply a debuff that increases damage by 40% to all enemies for 1 turn. If you attack her, she increases attack-related stats. If you don't attack her, you take 40% more damage. When the unit stance effect is removed, I'm going to assume this is removed by turn and or removed by a card, applies a buff that increases attack-related stats by 20% for 2 turns to unknown allies, and for every unknown ally on the battlefield, increases basic stats by 7%. Holy Relic. For every buff applied to the unit, increases damage taken by 8% up to 5 times. So, increase attack-related stats and increase her damage. Her stance, I'm going to talk about the stance first, assumes a stance that taunts the enemy and inflicts amplified damage by 450% when attacked. So her stance has amplify. That's kind of funny. And then her single target skill inflicts damage up to 450% and apply a debuff that decreases damage dealt by up to 80% at level 3. I'm going to assume at level 1 is like 30. 30, 40, I don't know. Then her ultimate applies a buff to the unit that increases critical chance by 50, critical damage by 130 for 2 turns, and inflicts suppress damage by 500% to all enemies. I don't know what suppress is, but you're gonna kill them if you hit them with this ultimate. And I don't care what I don't think I care about what suppress means. So I'm gonna also assume that at lower levels the crit chance is lower and the crit damage is also lowered. Albedo looks incredibly strong. But I have one thing I need to point out. So these characters look very, very strong, no doubt, right? If you go first with humans, you will wipe Ainz and Albedo first turn. So far, there's nothing that just stops me from just doing that with Roxy. Unless their stats are stupid high, which unfortunately JP doesn't show their stats. But unless their stats are stupid high, because yeah, Albedo has 50% damage reduction, but Ainz doesn't. You're just gonna kill Ainz. So Ainz is gone. He doesn't have damage cap, and his damage reduction is only if you attack them. So if you go second with Unknown, that's a problem, right? Do keep that in mind. You want to go first with this team. So that's something to keep in mind. Or at least that's my presumption, right? Just not even having used the characters, just looking at what they do, I think that if I go first with Roxy, Bond, and Asonor, I'm just going to kill 2 of their characters. This is Shalar, the last banner character. I mean, they're all banner characters, but the last character is given a copy for free, so I'm going to be addressing him a little different. It's the ultimate. These are the costumes. She is a less, I suppose, lewd character than Albedo. So I'm going to assume transitions for her are going to be rough. And nope, they're good. Okay. So her passive, Hunger for Blood. It's funny because, you know, I play this game I might have talked about a few times, called Enemy Adventures. They have the Overlord characters, and her passive is strikingly similar to what she does in the Roblox game. But for every unknown, not the unknown part, but she does have something to do with bleed. For every unknown ally in the battlefield, increases the unit's base stats by 7%. Every unknown character has something to do with basic stats. It's insane. When the unit damages an enemy on the enemy turn, no. Okay, this tax is a little odd. When the unit damages an enemy, applies a buff that increases HP related stats by 7%, max 3 stacks, and at the start of ally's turn, if the unit has 3 stacks of the buff, applies Frenzy to the unit for 1 turn. Frenzy increases attack related stats by 50%, reduces defense related stats by 30%, and when the buff is removed, regenerates 40% of max HP. That's interesting. So there is a downside, you do lose defense. So, when the unit is damaged by AoE skills from the enemy, apply bleed to the unit for 2 turns. Huh? I'm assuming that's the opposite. When she damages an enemy with AoE, she applies bleed to the enemy for 2 turns. Just mistyped here. Her relic. When the unit damages an enemy with bleed, heals allies HP by 30% of the damage the unit dealt to the enemy. So, I think she's still pretty strong. But again, if you're using all 3 of these characters together, I don't see how you don't just kill Ainz, kill Shalar, and then Alido is there. I guess. But her attacks. Skill 1. Inflicts exploitation damage by 450%. Exploitation doubles damage to the enemy that has bleed. And doubles crit damage. I don't know how much crit chance she has. I'm gonna assume it's a good amount. Skill 2. It's an AoE. In fact. So. Pretty standard for unknown. Release at least one character with AoE in fact. Every collab has a character with AoE in fact, doesn't it? Levi had it. Freaking Rimuru has it. The little boy has it from the jobless one. I think every collab just drops a character with in fact. Then her ultimate applies a buff to the unit that increases all stats by 30% for 2 turns. Inflicts damage by 600 to all enemies and life steals 30% damage dealt. Interesting. Or 50% damage dealt. Interesting. Last character. Now, this character, no matter how I pronounce his name, some people are going to be very mad. And given the not last collab, but, you know, the jobless collab, I'm going to assume, by my comments, majority of you are dub watchers, so I'm gonna call him Cockidus. Even though my brain, that's not American, wants to say Cockidus very badly. But I'm gonna call him Cockidus for the dub watchers that happen to watch me. Cockidus is a stupid name. Cockidus sounds way better, but I digress. That's Cockidus right there. His costumes make him look like a golem. It's pretty sick, actually. And he is a free character, so you're going to be getting a copy of him for free. He's a PvE character, as you can see. Every free character is. And he looks to be quite good on the vein of Kizuna. So, in PvE, when the unit uses a skill and damages the enemy, removes all debuffs on allies, and for every debuff removed, applies a buff that increases max HP by 8% for 3 turns up to 5 times. This looks amazing for final boss and guild boss, you know, activities need HP, but just in general, being able to remove debuffs is cool. I'm going to assume, before anyone asks, he does not work on demonic beasts. All these characters that are free from collabs do not work on demonic beasts so far. I'm going to assume for him it's going to be the same thing. His Holy Relic. In PvE, when the unit uses a skill, applies a buff to all allies that increases all stats by 10% for 2 turns. There doesn't seem to be a limit said here, so I'm going to assume it doesn't stack. Maybe it does, and if it does, that's pretty neat. We can probably stack a few. Obviously, it's only 2 turns, so you're not going to stack infinitely or anything, but you know. Skill 1, Amplify. Pretty simple. Skill 2, Detonate. Do more damage per each enemy ult gauge. And the ultimate is, I believe, the same as Assault Meliodas. Yep, increases basic stats by 50% for 3 turns. With Amplify, this ultimate is actually very, very good. So all in all, the characters are actually pretty good. I, pointed out my theory on how it's gonna go if you are using them when you go second against the human team, but I digress. Let me scale up these screens since they can't do it themselves. Let's take a look at them in practice. They go up against a tier unknown team here. And off the bat, they do something I would not have done. I would have gone for the stance with Albedo, but sure. Whatever. I mean, listen, there is an insane amount of damage reduction. I'm gonna assume Tear is gonna do like no damage. Yeah. If you go second against this team, you're doing no damage. You're just doing no damage. I don't know if you know this, by the way. I didn't point it out. Albedo taunts. So. It's really hard to see here. You have to start from the beginning because... yeah, so you can see the red here. Albedo's taunting, even though she didn't even stance. I guess they didn't stance because they knew they were going to take no damage anyways. Oh, I skipped the... yeah, okay. I had skipped by accident the Ain's turn here. My god, that Ain's level 3 is going to hurt. No, do a level 3, man! I want to see it. Does the attack lower AoE? I mean, listen, okay. You might think, oh, I said that, you know, the attack lore makes no sense with what he's doing with the damage reduction. Okay, he does damage reduction, right? I think it's too much. Like, you might as well do some damage with the AoE skill. You lower damage and you attack lore? I kind of expected more damage from that single target. What does this single target do again? Am I mistaking it? I thought that single target would do a little more damage. Yeah, it does 40% per death mark. I guess... Alright, let's... it must have 4 death marks by now, right? Oh, that's the counter. The counter's kind of funny. She just bonks them. Alright, let's see the Ain's in action. Boom, he just died. What was the damage? Is it exactly his max HP? I hate that there's such big skips when I just move a little bit because it's a stream is super long. Whatever. This is the bleed. So he took... yeah, 144k. That's his max. Hey, they're playing ungeared now. That might have just been the bleed. Okay. They just want to see more counters, I guess. Oh, it's almost the ultimates. Wait, am I does Albedo taunt every turn? I think she taunts every turn. Yes. So there was a thing missing on the translation here. Absolute defense not only lowers your damage by 50%, it also taunts every turn. Okay. My theory of leaving Albedo alone and killing the other two is now worse, but you can easily kill Albedo if you have humans. I don't see it not happening. They're not going to show against humans, of course, but... the thing is this team higher CC than humans? There's a possibility. There is a possibility. But I don't know. Because humans have an LR. Is absolute defense a buff? Or is it gray? It's gray. Okay. She taunts forever. And you can't do anything about it. You have to kill her. That is interesting. That is gonna be very annoying to deal with. Gonna be super toxic. It's gonna be super toxic. But then again, I don't see Roxy not like she has 50% damage reduction, whatever. I don't see Roxy not killing her. It's just Roxy's so strong. I think Albedo like heavy carries the team too. Ainz is pretty strong, but he's a little slow. Albedo is, I would say, the strongest character of the collab. Obviously, we're gonna have to actually use the characters. But just looking at what, bro, Albedo is so dumb. Alright, they're just doing a bunch of... They're not even playing the game, really. Like, I know if you go second against them using Unknown, the old Unknown, you're gonna lose. Like, I know that. What I would really like to see is... Ooh, 400k counter. What I really want to see is them, you know, tanking in the first turn, going second. The banners. Oh wow, Blue Hawk. And actually, though, if you don't have him 6-6, you're gonna need him 6-6 if you want to go first. Then we have Camilla, and then I think this is the boss fight. I have to move the screen here. And they're showing it with the new boys. Kokaida's here, the man. I mean, the new boss is gonna be a joke. They always are, but... And if you have the new characters... I mean, the one that wasn't a joke was, the rabbits from ReZero. Those were actually pretty hard, but... They made the newest one a joke, so I'm gonna assume this one also is. Yeah, Kokai's is gonna heavy carry. Like, that. I don't see him not. Especially because he probably does extra damage against the boss, because he's a collab character. You can't see, but this guy is just... I don't know if he's actually playing or he's just twitting. Like, he's just... he's just like texting someone. I'm guessing he's playing. He just can't be asked. That'd be kind of funny. Alright. Those are the characters. I'm gonna wait for patch notes and talk to you in a bit.